Now that we've looked at how to turn your expertise into a high quality online course, and we've looked at how to do an effective low budget launch for that course, let's talk about one more crucial piece, which is how much do you charge for your online course? Pricing can make or break the success of an online course business. And listen, I don't want to insult anyone, but to be quite frank, most entrepreneurs have no idea what they're doing when it comes to setting a price for their products. But we're going to fix that right now. And we're going to get a little bit nerdy with it. We're going to look at some graphs, and this will arm you with knowledge that most entrepreneurs just don't have. So if you like to have a competitive advantage, you will love this. Let's get right into it. We are going to look at 3 major points that you need to understand in order to master the pricing of online products and know how to set a price for your online course that makes it so much easier for you to succeed. Point number 1, we need to start asking a better question. You see, the way most people ask this question is, how much should I charge for my course? And that's basically the wrong question to ask. So if that's the wrong question, what's the right question? We'll get there step by step. The first step is to think about a specific amount. And I'm going to choose $10,000 as our amount, because then I can ask, what does it take to earn $10,000? Now, $10,000 is an arbitrary amount, but I think it works well. If you're just starting out, you can think of it as, what does it take to reach my first $10,000? And later on, it could be, what does it take to reach $10,000 a month or even $10,000 a day? This is why we'll be thinking about $10,000 as a target value. Let's do a bit of simple back of the napkin type math and think about different price points and what it takes to make $10,000. Let's start with a low price point of $5. If you sell a product for $5, you need 2,000 sales in order to make $10,000. Simple enough, right? We're going to model this out on different price points. For my next price point, I'm going to choose $70. This could be anything in the range of like $50 to $100, and you'll see why I chose $70 in a bit. But here at $70, what we'll see is that we need 143 sales to reach $10,000. And obviously, the higher our price, the fewer sales we need. So let's crank it all the way up. $2,000, we only need 5 sales to make $10,000. So right away, this is a better way to think about pricing, because you see what happens here? Once you look at the $2,000 price point and you realize, wow, I only need 5 sales to reach $10,000. The gears start turning, don't they? If you're anything like me, you're probably looking at this and thinking, you know what, it just seems like it might be way more difficult to find 2,000 people to buy my $5 product than it would be to find just 5 people to give me $2,000 each. And as it turns out, you are onto something. But then if that's true, why don't we just keep going? I mean, we could charge $10,000 for a product and then we only need 1 single customer. We can charge $100,000 and now we only need 0.1 customers, which I guess doesn't really make sense. So we're learning something here, but it's not quite coming together yet. So let's get to point number 2, which is we need to think about reach. To start making sense of this pricing question, we need to introduce another factor here, which is the conversion rate. And we need to think about, how does the conversion rate change when the price changes? So for this, let's look at a graph. And we have 2 axes. We have a price that goes from very cheap to very expensive, and we have a conversion rate that goes from very low to very high. Here we can visualize what the relationship between conversion rate and price looks like. Now, here's what it doesn't look like. It is not a linear relationship like this. If this were the case, then basically pricing wouldn't matter, because it would mean that if I charge $100 and 100 people buy my product, if I change the price to $1,000, then 10 people will buy my product and I end up with the exact same amount of revenue. But this is not what it looks like in reality, and this is why pricing matters. There are 3 factors that we have to take into consideration to get a more accurate graph. The first factor is that there is a sloping curve here, which is to say that early on, if we go from a smaller price to a slightly higher price, we will see a larger drop off in conversion rates than later on, going from a medium price to a high price. So there's kind of a gently sloping curve, not a straight line. Factor number 2 is what I call the big drop. There's a huge drop in conversion rate from $0, anything for free, to any dollar amount. That is the biggest drop in conversion rates that we'll see. Even if you just charge 1 cent for your product, it will have a far, far lower conversion rate than if the product is free. You can think about this. If you have experience in the online marketing space, you'll probably know that if you have a free offer, some offer for a newsletter sign up or something like that, you can get double-digit conversion rates on that with the right kind of traffic. Whereas if you have a paid offer, even at a very low price, your conversion rates are almost certainly going to be in the 1-digit range. This is the big drop in effect. And then factor number 3, this is just a little bonus thing to keep in mind. This curve is actually not a smooth curve. Instead, it has like these little steps in it. Why does this happen? Well, at certain prices, there is essentially psychological buying resistance, where it makes a big difference whether your product is priced at just under or just over $10, or just under or just over $100. This is why we commonly see prices like $9.99 or $97 or whatever it is. The prices that are just below a round value usually have a higher conversion rate than prices that are just above that same value. Now, this is useful to keep in mind, but for the purposes of this video, for keeping it simpler, I will keep working with round numbers. But just in your mind, you now know they're actually like these little price resistance steps, and it's good to be just below a round value in your pricing. The main and most important takeaway from all this is that it's not a linear relationship. When you double your price, you generally don't cut your conversion rate in half, and vice versa. This is hugely important. Let's go back to our price levels and translate this knowledge into something practical. At our $5 price level, assuming you have a decent product, decent sales page, and so on, let's say you get a 5% conversion rate. That's a realistic, practical conversion rate to aim for. At a 5% conversion rate, it means that you need to reach 40,000 people in order to get your 2,000 sales, in order to make your $10,000. And this is the key point. When we think about conversion rate, the way this translates into something practical is basically, how many people do I need to reach? And this leads us to the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, how many people do I need to reach in order to make $10,000? So like we said, at $5 and a 5% conversion rate, we need to reach 40,000 people. At $70 and a 2.5% conversion rate, we would need to reach 5,720 people in order to make $10,000. Now, here's why I chose $70. It's because I have experience selling products at this price point. And the last time I did this, the real conversion rate was 2.48%. So again, 2.5% is a real practical conversion rate that you can get here. And this is the key factor. See how the required reach goes down by a lot when the price goes up from $5 to $70. Just think about how difficult it is to do anything that reaches 40,000 people. How difficult is it to write a blog post that 40,000 people will read, or make a video on YouTube that 40,000 people will watch, or create something on social media that 40,000 people will see? It is really difficult to reach that many people with anything you do. And so trying to get 40,000 people to see your sales page to make $10,000, I don't know about you, but for me, it makes me think, well, is this even worth all the trouble I'll have to go through to reach this many people? On the other hand, $70 at 2.5% conversion rate, here we have to roughly reach 6,000 people. That is a lot less. And if I think about how much work is it to reach 6,000 people, and I get $10,000 in revenue as a result, well, that now seems worth my while. So what about a much higher price? At $2,000, we've already seen we only need 5 sales to make our $10,000. But what's our conversion rate going to look like? Well, it's going to be nowhere near 2.5%. But even if the conversion rate goes down by a huge amount, let's say we can only convince 1 in 1,000 people to buy our product, so our conversion rate is 0.1%, that still means we only need to reach 5,000 people to make $10,000. So the overall reach required, even if our conversion rate drops by a lot, is still going down as we increase the price. What we've seen so far would suggest that in general, higher prices are just better. Higher prices mean less work to reach the same amount of money. And there's a lot of truth to that, but we're still missing one crucial piece in order to fully solve the pricing puzzle. And that is point number 3, production cost. Okay, production cost sounds boring, but here's why it matters. Let's look at another graph here. Once again, we have at the bottom prices going from very cheap to very expensive. And now we're looking at the relationship between these prices and the amount of production cost it takes to make a product of that price level. Think about a low-priced product. If you throw together a simple sales page and you sell an ebook for $5 and it's kind of a poorly formatted ebook, but the content is good, your customers will buy it, they will call it charming, and they will like it. This means that for a cheap product, you can basically do all the work yourself, even if you're not a pro, and even if it's a bit janky and a bit amateurish, as long as the substance of the product is good, you can get away with it. The cost of producing a cheap product is still not zero. At the very least, you're spending time, but the cost is low. But as you charge more money for your product, the higher the production cost goes. So think about it. If I want to sell a product for $2,000, then everything has to be neat and polished. My design has to be excellent. My sales copy has to be on point. The entire customer experience, the way everything looks and feels all the way through, has to be really high quality. I have to have customer support. In short, in order to sell a product for $2,000, I probably need a team. And that means I have to pay people, I have to pay professional designers, I have to have infrastructure in place that I just don't need at a much lower price point. So what does this look like on our graph? Basically, this is a curve that starts low, but then goes up exponentially the higher our price goes. Your production cost for a $100 product is not that much greater than for a $10 product, but it is massively greater for a $2,000 product or a $10,000 product. Remember how I showed you how I threw together a rapid implementation style product launch and I kept everything super simple and just recorded myself on a GoPro and so on? Well, that works for a low to mid-priced product, but if I wanted to sell something for $2,000 or more, I couldn't get away with that. Now here's an important aside. In everything we're talking about here, we're only talking about good, high quality products. Like I said previously, I'm only talking about making good products here that your customers will actually like. But see, that is independent of price. If you buy a cookie for $1, you want that to be a good cookie. And if you buy a car for $30,000, you want it to be a good car. So now we can combine our two graphs. We can look at how the production cost increases as price increases, and we can look at how conversion rate goes down as price goes down. And remember, the conversion rate curve basically represents how much work we have to put into reaching enough people to make our $10,000. And this is where we come to our solution, because these two graphs cross over, and the point where they cross over is what I call the pricing sweet spot. The perfect price for an online course lies at the point where we have the highest possible conversion rate for the lowest possible production cost. And this lies at around $200. This is specific to online courses. I have sold online courses in many different niches for many years at many different price points. And I've discovered that around $200 is where I basically have to put in the least amount of work to make the greatest returns on my online courses. So let's bring this into our price calculations. Now, just like the $70 price point, I can use real numbers from my actual experience. So the last time I sold a $200 course, my conversion rate was 2.14%. Let's round that down to 2%. If my conversion rate is 2%, it means I need to reach only 2,500 people to make $10,000. This is the pricing sweet spot for two reasons. Number one, I need to reach very few people to make a lot of money. And number two, a $200 product is still something I can do on my own without a team, without world-class design and all this other stuff that would drive up my production costs. If I follow the principles of the outcome-oriented course that we looked at in a previous video, and I put in a little elbow grease, I can make a really high-quality product that I can sell for $200 and people will love it. This has been part of the secret to my success. I've never done anything that has reached a huge number of people. I've never written an article or made a video that went viral and reached millions of people. I don't have social media accounts with millions of followers. I can do things at a much smaller scale, and I'm still making far more money than most people with huge social media followings. It's because I know this about pricing. I've set my business up in such a way that I don't need insane reach in order to succeed. And if that's something that sounds good to you, then the $200 price point for an online course is exactly what you should do next. So like I promised, now you know way more than most entrepreneurs about how to price your products correctly. And the reason we made these videos is because here at Thrive Themes, our goal is to help solopreneurs and small-scale entrepreneurs succeed. And in this work, I encounter lots and lots of entrepreneurs, and I see how often they make success difficult for themselves. They either undercharge, they undervalue their own work and set a price at which it's just almost impossible for them to get enough sales to actually start making a good living. Or they overcomplicate things, they overreach, they try to do things that are too far out of reach and too complex and too costly to turn into a reality. Even if you're highly ambitious, what I always end up recommending is that people start with something small that makes it easy for them to succeed and start gaining some momentum. So for most people, the way to get there, to their more ambitious goals, is to start by selling simple products that they can make themselves at a price point at around or below $200. You see, this is how I ended up being able to start a company like Thrive Themes without needing any outside funding. I wouldn't have been able to do this without the skills and experience that I gained from creating and selling online courses. And I wouldn't have been able to self-fund Thrive Themes without the income generated from those information products. Let me leave you with one last bonus insight. Maybe you were looking at the numbers we went through and you thought, you know what, that $2,000 price point looks really good. I really like the idea of being able to make $10,000 from just 5 sales. And you're right, for most businesses, having a high ticket offer as part of their product offerings is a strategically very good choice. But like we saw, there is production cost involved. And so how do you get there? As it turns out, the shortest path to being able to create and sell a $2,000 product is to create and sell 1 or 2 or 3 lower priced products first. This helps you gain the experience. It helps you build up a reputation and an audience. So by the time you're making your $2,000 product, you know how to make it really kick ass, and you have a list of eager customers waiting to buy from you. So let me ask you this. If you were to start making an online course right now, and now you know how to do it, how to launch it, and what to charge for it, what would the topic be? What is it that you could teach and turn into an online course? Let me know by leaving a comment below. And also, if you have any other questions about how to successfully build an online course business, anything else that we haven't addressed in these videos yet that you'd like to know, go ahead and leave a comment below. We'll try to answer all the questions we get.